And we're all right. So, welcome to the Metaphysical Bible Hangout. I am Sherri James, Reverend Sherri James. I'm the founder of this incredible Thursday night Bible study that we get to do every week. And we are in the midst of an incredible series on Proverbs. This is chapter 4, verses 10 through 19 that we're going to be working with tonight. We're moving through this metaphysical interpretation process, and I just want to welcome you in to this if this is your first time here. And if this is your first time here, or if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. I actually really would like to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm literally like 20 subscribers away. Like 20, that's nothing. 20 could happen in a day. So share this channel, share this content with somebody, tell somebody about it. Help me get to 1,000. There's some really cool things that I can start to do when I hit that 1,000 threshold. And God help me when I get to 100,000 or 1 million. I'm ready for that too. Come on, God, bring it on. All right, let's take a moment to open this class in prayer. If you would center yourself, take your attention from your head to your heart, and know that the power and presence of God indwells you, that you are made in the image and after the likeness of God, that the life force that animates you is the presence of God, living, moving, and having expression through you, in you, and as you. And I ask, Spirit, that what is shared in this class glorify you in us, raise you up in us. Thank you, God. You know what's been prepared, but you also know what each heart needs. And so I put this class in your hands, Spirit. Lead us where we need to go this evening. In the name and the nature and the consciousness of I am. This prayer is so, and so it is. And amen. Okay, so a couple of things. One is, in this, I'm doing this for those who may not be here for the first time, and then this may be valuable for people who have not, maybe don't know this. Maybe you've been doing it for a while, and you're not completely aware of why we do metaphysical Bible interpretation. So what is metaphysical Bible interpretation? So it is an art and it is a science. The science of it are 4 steps, and we go through those 4 steps over the course of multiple weeks, working with different passages of scripture. The art of it is how you allow the meaning to emerge. And there are as many different meanings as there are people on the face of the earth. And many of us were raised in traditions where we were taught a singular interpretation of scripture. And if we had an interpretation that, didn't completely agree with or deviated too much from the interpretation that we were given, then we were either wrong or at worst, condemned. And what I want you to understand is that what the Spirit has to say to you through the scriptures is unique to you. And so you are 100% listening for the presence and the power of God expressing as you, communicating through you to you a unique message for your soul, for exactly what it is that you need. So you're not looking for your interpretation to match my interpretation. I share with you a method, but the art of it is what you bring to it. So one of the texts that's a foundational text that we use through this process is Wisdom for a Lifetime. This is Alden Studebaker, How to Get the Bible Off the Shelf and Into Your Hands. It is a powerful, powerful work. I think he does such an amazing job. One, it's just helping you understand the development of the Bible and all the different versions of the Bible. There's an amazing chapter in there where he explains like how we came up with the King James Version, how that then flowed into the next version, and he kind of builds a timeline through history. And so it's really powerful. And then it culminates into an understanding that everyone interprets the Bible. My teacher, Dr. Will Coleman, would say that if you have only read the Bible in English, then you haven't read the Bible, because the English is an interpretation, meaning that there were a group of people, though at least for the ones that are authorized, that we are the accepted versions of the Bible. There were a group of people, largely men, that were reading the fragments that we have left. We don't even have complete, sets. They were reading the fragments that we have left and deciding this Hebrew word means that English word, or this Hebrew word means that German word. And what that means is that he doesn't have to have any nefarious intent, but he's still interpreting the scripture. And so you're not reading the original text, you're reading his interpretation of the text. So that means that his worldview, how he approaches life, is infused in that interpretation, or that group, that collective group, is infused in that interpretation. And so what you want to be able to do is to go at it for yourself. And so why we do metaphysical Bible interpretation is in an attempt to get behind those human fingerprints. It is our attempt to go beyond the implicit and explicit biases of the interpreters or of the translators. So that's the power of that. And I always want to highlight that, because I want people to understand, where this comes from. Metaphysical Bible interpretation is not new. The Bible itself interprets the Bible metaphysically, or there are passages in the Bible that interpret other passages of the Bible metaphysically. And I think I've shown you guys that with Galatians 4, where Paul is giving the argument for why non-Jewish people can be considered children of the promise. And the only way to accept his interpretation is to accept the metaphysical argument that stands underneath it. So I just encourage you to open your heart and your mind to metaphysical interpretation if you're new to this, and really dive in, because it will take your Bible study to a whole other level. So what is the metaphysical Bible interpretation process? So there are 4 steps, and they're outlined in chapter 9 of Alden Studebaker's book. This version of it that I have, it starts on page 177. And so step 1, which we did last week, is to select, read, and study the scripture. Step 2, which we're going to do tonight, is to identify the key words and phrases. Step 3 is to develop interpretations for the words and phrases. And step 4 is to allow the metaphysical meaning to emerge. And we'll do that in the coming weeks. I also want to let you know a couple of housekeeping things. I'm going to say this at the top, but we will not, this is the end of the quarter. I can't believe we're at the end of the quarter. Like, I feel like this quarter ran by, which is, the last quarter just kind of creeped. This one was like a gallop. So we are here at the end of the quarter. I take off the end of the quarter for spiritual renewal, to regroup, hit the reset button. So we're not going to meet next Thursday. We'll be back the first Thursday in October. The second or third Thursday in October, the Reverend Charles Taylor from Universal Truth Center is going to be here. I will be with my wealth management firm. We have workshops that week, and those we do once a month. We have financial workshops. So I will be down at El Segundo presenting on that Thursday night. And so Reverend Charles will be here to keep it going. And I think that at that point you'll be at step 4 with him. Are there any questions on anything that I've shared? Is this resonating? Did you hear anything new, or did it clarify some things that maybe you didn't know was a question you had?
All good. Good.
Okay, good, good, good. All right. I love that your shirt says kale. Is that kale for like the leaf kale? Or is there a school that is for? I love it. Let's go. Let's. All right. So what my virtual assistant sent today was a couple of things. So you have some supplemental material, and we'll get to that. And then you have this material. Okay, so let's revisit this. Attend, my son, and take my words, that the years of your life may increase. I guide you in wisdom's way. So these headings here, hear my teaching, choose the way of wisdom, shun the way of evil, those don't necessarily come out of the Bible. Those are added by later editors. Attend, my son, and take my words, that the years of your life may increase. I guide you in wisdom's way, lead you in routes of rectitude. In walking, your stride won't be hobbled, and if you run, you will not trip. Hold fast to discipline. Don't let go. Guard it, for it is your life. Enter not on the way of the wicked, nor tread on the path of evildoers. Shun it, pass not upon it, veer away from it, then pass on. For they cannot sleep unless they've done harm. They're robbed of sleep if they've made no one stumble. For they feed on the food of evil, drink the wine of lawlessness. But the way of the righteous is like the glow of dawn, shining ever brighter till the day sets in. The way of the wicked is as the murk. They know not on what they may stumble. So step one, as we said, and we did this last week, we read the passage and we just, I gave you a meditative practice, something that you can do in your quiet time in the morning, where you sit with the scripture and you read through it, and then you give yourself maybe 2 to 3 minutes of just, concentrated breathing, and then writing out your impressions. And so we collected those impressions last week, and hopefully you're using these worksheets and you're putting them in the blank. So today we're going to focus on identifying the key words and phrases that you will look up. And so I want to give you a couple of rules about that. So the first thing you want to do is you want to scan the passage. I'm going to bring this back down. You want to scan the passage, and I'm reading directly out of Alden Studebaker's Wisdom for a Lifetime. You want to scan the passage for those verses and words that you feel are most important to the meaning of the storyline or are unique in character. So what do you feel is important to, now this is not a story in a traditional sense. If we were reading Moses, or maybe what we're doing with Up Church with the Move Into Your Promised Land, but still words that you feel are important. And I want to give you another piece of that I think will be valuable. So this book is a good book. This book is Hidden Mystery of the Bible, Jack Ensign Addington. Yeah, Jack Ensign Addington. And he is, and I really should know more about where he comes from. I don't fully know the school of thought that he's tied to. But when we teach metaphysical Bible interpretation at Up Church, these are the two books that we have our students buy that are a part of the class. And one of the things that he says in the book that I think is powerful is that, I'm looking for it. He gave, I didn't have it marked, so apologies. So there, he calls these the 3 keys. This is his chapter 3. There is hidden meaning found in proper names, the hidden meaning in certain key words, and the hidden meaning in certain key numbers. And so he says, now I'm going to place in your hands 3 keys that will open doors that have heretofore remained or locked to you. The first key is to be found in the meanings of proper names in the Bible. Name means nature in the Bible. In his name means according to his nature. Every Hebrew proper name, whether of a person or a place, will reveal to you a state of consciousness. So you've heard me say that Hebrew letters have 4 levels of meaning, and that when you put the letters together to form a word or a name, you're actually putting together a formula. So this is, you're revealing a state of consciousness. There's something more that's being talked about than just Joseph and Potiphar's wife. There's a movement that's happening that is revealed in the names of the characters. You will find that as the state of consciousness changes in the story, the person's name will change. Thus, Abram becomes Abraham, Sarai becomes Sarah, Saul becomes Paul, etc. They cannot keep their names once their nature or character has changed, because these proper names all have a deeper meaning than just a name. So that's one part of it. So I guess let's start there. Let's go back and look at the passage and look to see if there are any proper names. And I don't think that there really are in here. Make sure I'm not missing. Let me know if you guys see something that I'm not seeing. I don't see any proper names. Okay. All right. And proper names might be names of people or names of cities, but it doesn't look like there is. All right. So then the next piece, he says, what's in a word? So it makes no difference what you are studying. You're going to find there is a vocabulary particular to that subject. If you're studying law, you're going to find that there's a vocabulary for law, words that are used exclusively in connection with that subject. If you pick up a book on music, you soon discover it has nothing to do with the study of law. For in music, the words octaves, sharps, flats, allegro, and fortissimo have meaning, while in law, the student is concerned with words such as torts, felony, depositions, and contracts. Anyway, each subject has its own vocabulary, and the meaning of the words is particular to that subject. So this is, I want him to get to the third key. So one of the things that you're looking for, I was looking for his way of saying it, but I'll just give it to you. One of the things that you're looking for is you're looking for words that repeat. All right, so you're looking for phrases and words that repeat. So we're going to read through this again. Attend, my son, and take my words, that the years of your life may increase. I guide you in wisdom's way, lead you in routes of rectitude. In walking, your stride won't be hobbled, and if you run, you will not trip. Hold fast to discipline. Don't let go. Guard it, for it is your life. So life repeats there. So life would be a word to look up. Enter not on the way of the wicked, but nor tread on the path of evildoers. Shun it, pass not upon it, veer away from it, then pass on. For they cannot sleep unless they've done harm. They're robbed of sleep. So sleep repeats. So you want to look up sleep. If they've made no one stumble. So stumble, well, hobble, stumble. For they feed on the food of evil, drink the wine of lawlessness. But the way of the righteous, so way repeats with verse 11 and verse 18. The way of the righteous is like the glow of dawn, shining ever brighter till the day sets in. The way of the wicked is as the murk. They know not on what they may stumble. So that word stumble is there again. So what you're looking for in the key words is that you're looking for phrases that stand out, and you're looking for words that repeat. So one of the reasons that we read the various interpretations is that we were looking for words that changed, because what that told us was that different groups of interpreters were looking at the same material and drawing a different conclusion. And so if they're looking at the same material and drawing a different conclusion, then that's a clue for us that we want to dive into that, that we want to pick that up. But the immediate words, and I'll use my all right. So we've got, I know the word words is something that we want to look up. We've got the word way. Way, in fact, way shows up a few different times. We've got the word stumble. Oh, we've got the word life. Let me move this up the way. So way is right here again. Stumble again. Way. Wicked repeats. Anything else you see that repeats? Pass. So pass not, pass on. Any other repeats that you guys see?
No, I don't see any other ones.
Okay, let me take a picture of this so I don't lose it. All right. All right, clear. Okay, so that is one way that we find words. So that list, and I hope somebody wrote that down.
I wrote it.
Thank you, because I'm working from memory here. So then the next thing we want we're looking at verbs. So actions, movements, thoughts and feelings, other words and phrases that are descriptive of the scene. So the action words are things like attend, take, increase, guide, lead, walking, run, trip. So these are all words. So this is we're building a list of words that we're going to look up. Hold fast, don't let go, guard it, enter not, nor tread on. I think this is, they didn't just say just stay away from the path of evildoers. They're like, shun it, pass not upon it, veer away from it, then pass on. It's like don't even accidentally end up in that. Robbed, feed, drink. So those are the action words that are there. And again, this is a bigger list that we're working with. But what we're doing is that we're building this out. So remember what I said, that if you were incorporating this into your morning practice, you might just spend the time choosing the words that you're going to look up. And that might be the Bible practice right there for one morning. And then on another morning, you might begin to look up some of the words. So you might take a passage of scripture and work with it, if you're doing this on a daily basis, and work with it over, a week 7 days, 10 days to build out that meaning. And don't be discouraged by what may seem like a slow process. Each time you come to the scripture, something is unfolding in you. These words are timeless. And so timeless words wake up timeless things in us. And so we do ourselves a disservice when we want to rush through. What we want to do is to take our time with it, because what we're trying to get at is the deepest parts of ourselves. Remember, this is a process, and we're going to come away with a meaning. But what's really happening is that we're waking up a dormant part of our spirit. We're waking up a latent part of who we are. And so what we want to do is to lean into that, take our time with that. It's worth it. You alive with the greatest part of you present cannot be stopped. It simply cannot be stopped. The truth is that you're unstoppable in the core of your being. That's the truth of who you are. But we've got stuff in the way. And so this process of working with scripture in this way has a twofold thing. Yes, it's going to get you to a metaphysical meaning, but more importantly, it's going to wake up something beautiful in you. It's going to wake up something. I don't even have words. Words are failing me right now. It's going to wake up something delightful in you. What are your thoughts about that?
I love the idea that there's a latent energy within us, because that makes me it's exciting or hopeful. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good. Anybody else? What are your thoughts?
What I'm finding now that I'm doing this with Bible passages, I find myself doing this process and, in books that I'm reading now, even, when I'm looking at affirmations, the daily inspiration, it's driving force in just about, everything that I'm doing now.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Shamika, I'm hoping, did you catch those words? Right,
I took a picture of it.
Yeah,
that was a lot of those ones.
Okay, so, and then you're just looking for anything else that stands out to you. Anything else that stands out. And so sometimes what can help you know what is standing out is to read commentary. So I want to highlight a couple of things in the commentary that virtual assistant sent you. So this is a supplemental material. So the first passage comes from the Jewish Study Bible. I've talked a lot about that, so I'm going to skip over that. But there were some really great things here in the Anchor Bible commentary. So verse 11, guide you, lead you. So if we go back to verse 11, so essentially what it's saying is everything from guide you to lead you, right? All of that, or maybe it's the whole thing, right? But basically this whole verse, right? That's what it's referring to. So everything in this verse, so the guide you is the Hebrew word, and I'm going to mess it up, but it's horatika, and lead you is hydratika or hydrotika. I don't speak Hebrew. Hora means guide, inform, hence to teach. It is the verb from which Torah, the word, or Torah, which means teaching, and then law is derived. Though Torah and Proverbs is not law, it is authoritative. It comprises directions for the road of a mandatory kind, that is directives. And that's just a citation there. The verbs in this sentence translated here in the present tense may alternately be present perfects to be translated have guided, and have led with reference to teachings in the past. So it could be, I have guided you, I have led you. And then he references also in verse 11, wisdom's way, routes of rectitude. So he gives some insight into that. So wisdom is honesty. Devious cleverness is not wise. Though in other books, the word hakma, which is the word for wisdom, can refer to cunning of that sort. Any questions on this? Is this making sense what we're doing here? So what we're opening up, we're going deeper. So in an ideal world, we didn't have time for this last week, so we just focused on the different translations. But if we were doing a full study, we would be looking at not just a few different translations, but we'd also be looking at the notes around that translation. Let's look at verse 12. So in verse 12, it says, in walking, your stride won't be hobbled. And if you run, you will not trip. And so if you go over to the note, it says, and so it's giving you the beginning and the ending. So it's saying I'm covering this whole verse. According to Ehrlich, these are metaphors for grasping and pursuing in daily life, for exertions in the struggle for existence. And then it says, see Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31, and especially Haggai chapter 1, verse 9. Verse 12b means not even when you run, when you are more likely to fall. Verses 11 and 12 together show that the ethical path alone is the safe one. So what that gives us is that this verse is about, how do I protect myself in a world probably quite like the one that we're in today? You know, how do I look out for my best interest? And so the interpretation of this is that the safe path is the path of the righteous, the path that follows wisdom's way. Your stride won't be hobbled. And so it's saying, literally, that phrase or that word means straightened. Narrow, impeded steps are an affliction typical of old age, when a man's formerly strong steps are hobbled. See Job 18:7. A broad stride means security. See Psalms 18:37. Here, the difficulty is not caused by the infirmity of the walker, but by the path itself, which may be pictured as uneven and broken. If you behave wisely and honestly, you will move through life smoothly in confident comfort without stumbling, even when you must run, that is to say, work hard. So it's, put yourself in the mind of this father figure that is talking to his son and giving him instruction on what it is that he is to do. And he knows, those of you that have children, you know what potentially lies ahead. You know the pitfalls and the missteps that you maybe fell into and then came out of, or maybe you sidestepped it and it, you know, and you were able to, your life was spared. And now you're talking to this young person who's just starting out on the road. And you're saying, listen, there's a way to do this where you won't even be tripped up, right? There's a way to do this where you will be supported. Any questions? Any ahas?
Well, I guess the aha for me is just growing up, and especially with me, my parents were from the South, and it was every day, it was a lesson like this. I mean, you always got some kind of saying that you would hear repeated. I mean, I remember when I first started working in the summer, my mother would always say, you have to go to work on Mondays. You never take Mondays off, because that's after the weekend. And you don't want people to think that you're not a conscientious worker. I mean, it was always something that was being said every day. And it's really interesting because you hear those when you're young, and you do the eyes back in your head and all of that. And after I had a child, I find myself saying the exact same thing. It's just, and I had to look over my shoulder and make sure my mother's not there saying, I mean, so it is just definitely an aha.
Yeah.
So it has continued on even from the days, biblical days. You just redo it.
Yes, yes, yes. Anybody else? Yes, Marcia, you that resonated with you. I want to get here to the way of the wicked because we talked about that. So that's verse 14. So let's take a look at verse 14. So enter not on the way of the wicked. So toy is just, what you'll find is that like the Anchor Bible commentary is like looking at other commentaries and then drawing its own conclusions. So this is somebody whose last name was Toy. Toy believes that the writer probably thinking of a class of men that was numerous in the great cities of that period, unscrupulous government agents, revenue farmers, grasping and desperate men of all sorts, some of whom are described by Josephus. Josephus was a historian. Josephus did metaphysical interpretation and is one of the people that wrote around or about the time of Jesus. And so he is a highly cited scholar out of antiquity. This reveals both Victorian smugness and a strange periodization of Jewish history. For some reason, the reference to the righteous does not inspire Toy to characterize the period, apparently the Second Commonwealth, as particularly honest and just. In Proverbs 1-9, there are two archetypal ways, the way of life and the way of death. They are both timeless realities, and to historicize the reference is to miss this central point. So scholars are always arguing back and forth. He don't know what he's talking about. That's essentially what he just said. Okay. Radak observes that the verse does not say go not in the way of the wicked, but rather enter not or come not into it. Entering indicated the moment one comes into a space rather than continuous movement, i.e. going within that space. Radak cites not join in the abominable customs and activities of the wicked. He cites the way that is usual with women, which is in Genesis 18:11, to show that, anyway, the point is that there's something about enter not. It's like, don't even go on that path. Same scholar paraphrases the second part of the verse as do not stride in their ways, lest you learn from their actions or arouse suspicion in their company. For even if you do not do as they do, people will suspect you of evil. Radak is distinguishing between going in the ways of the wicked, which he understands to mean being in their company, from the actual commission of a crime. The second danger Radak mentions, namely the arousing of unfounded suspicion, does not come into the purview of Proverbs 1-9, for the author does not seem to conceive of the possibility of avoiding actual villainy once one has joined the company of the wicked. The danger may, however, be avoided at the last minute, as the next verse teaches. And so that's where we get to verse 15, which is shun it, pass not upon it, veer away from it, then pass on. And this I thought was interesting. The path of the wicked is not somehow off in the distance, far from the path of the righteous. Somehow their path zigzags through the territory of life. You are in danger not only if you choose to seek it out, you may come upon it willy-nilly as it crosses or nears your own life course. When that happens, it is not enough to just continue on your way. You must actively shun the evil path and veer aside from it without tarrying. Sometimes we find ourselves willy-nilly on the verge of evil and must actively change our life course in order to avoid it. The verb sata, which is translated, I think, as the shun, literally means to swerve aside from the expected or right path. Elsewhere, it is used only in reference to sexual transgressions, namely the acts of an unfaithful wife and a male fornicator. The word may be deliberately incongruous in the present text, meaning that the word, when it's used otherwise, has a sexual connotation, and that even though this is not pertaining to sex, the author may be intentionally using this word to say how serious it is to stay away from the path of evil. Thoughts on that?
Well, I thought immediately, when you started reading 15, it just made me think of, stay alert, stay awake. So, it doesn't catch you by surprise, like you said, so.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Mhm. Let's get a little bit more from that. Okay, so this one, because this stood out last week, they cannot sleep if they've made no one stumble. So that's verse 16. For they cannot sleep unless they've done harm. They're robbed of sleep if they've made no one stumble. So according to Micah chapter 2, verse 1, the wicked lie awake planning wicked deeds. Thus too in Psalm 36, verse 5. Here also the evildoers presumably devise evil machinations while lying awake, but their wakefulness is involuntary. They lie awake not in order to do evil, but because they have not done it. The wicked have a need to cause harm. Their peace of mind depends upon it. They are not merely morally lazy, indifferent, or greedy for gain. Their corruption is deep-rooted, their characters warped to the core. Just as wild animals cannot lie down until they have taken prey, so the wicked are compelled by nature and habit to do harm. And I thought that that was so powerful, because I would venture to say that all of us know somebody like that. No, don't nobody know nobody like that.
Yes, we do. But you know what? The funny part about it is I don't even know if they know that they're like that.
Exactly. And I go back to what they had here, verse 17, for they feed on the food of evil, drink the wine of lawlessness. Like that what is driving them is what they're taking in. Anybody else? The wicked constitute a separate category of humanity. Hence, the danger envisioned in part 1 is not precisely being one of them, so much as it is being induced into joining their company, thereby becoming a victim of their blandishments. There would be no point in warning an inherently evil person against evil doing, because he could neither understand nor change his nature, nor would he desire to do so. On the ingrained perversity of the evildoer, if they've made no one stumble. So the goal is not merely to amass wealth, they must also make others stumble into iniquity and behave as they do. And they are not satisfied until they succeed in this. In lecture 1, the wicked try to draw youth into their schemes, even though this does not promise them any apparent material gain. Theirs is a maliciousness deeper than greed. They have a strange need for corruption for its own sake. I know that I have met people, not now, but definitely when I was younger, and maybe I was, that person that the path was veering near. And their perspective of the world was, I do it because everybody else does it. Like this is how things get done. And so you almost feel like a square choosing not to go that path. No, just me. Okay.
No,
I can relate to that.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we all have stories. So, in my story, there is where I did rear off the path and I found myself in a road like, how the hell did I get here?
Mhm.
And I had to go through tremendous changes or whatever in order to make a conscious decision that this is not what I want in my life.
Mhm.
And so I was able to get back on a path that led me to truth. That took some time, but at least I knew that the road that I was traveling, it really was not me. But because I was seeking, when you're with your peers, you're seeking to be like everybody else. You're seeking to not be the little square one. So
Right.
you do veer off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was, I guess, fortunate enough to know and say, no, this is not the life that I really want to live. So I can get with this. So, and I see people, I'm working with the women now at the Light of Truth Center, and it happens. I can just say it happens.
Yep. 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 Absolutely. So Reverend Shirley Lawson, some of you know who she is. She said this. So you've heard the thing, you're the sum total of the 5 people you keep closest to you. But she was talking at the women's retreat for Universal Truth Center, and she said, you inherit the destiny of the people that you keep around you. And that just was like a gut punch, like, ooh, Lord, like, just, that just gave it like extra weight. But it's true that you pick up their ways, you pick up their understanding of the world, you pick up their approach to life. And not like you're not rubbing off on them, but there's no such thing as them not rubbing off on you. Malayla.
no, I was just going to follow up on what you were saying about wicked people and how they just want you actually to, because I've experienced that in my quest to be a healer. I've noticed that most of the time it's actually a temptation to get my heart into a bad, a bad place. And for me, I need to be in a good place for me to be that kind of person. So whenever somebody tries me, sometimes I really just have to like walk away and just,
Thank you for sharing that. You just made me think of something. One of the things that changed my experience is, and it's where this comes from, is that we never have an output problem. We only ever have an input problem. And so sometimes there may have been people in my experience that I didn't know how to get them out of my experience. Whether it was someone who's, okay, so this might just be me. I had somebody whose feelings I didn't want to hurt. And so they're continually in my space. But the thing is that everything you take in makes you who you are. And remember what it says on the verse 17, they feed on the food of evil, they drink the wine of lawlessness. So what I started doing was changing what I was feeding on and drinking from. That as I fed on the word of God, as I drank from the cup of truth, as I ate these truth principles, it made me unattractive to the, do you know what I'm saying? Like, and people just naturally couldn't, it's the word is its own protection. coincidentally, this is why I believe that you can forgive and forget, because if you get that input right, you're not even available for the thing that you stumbled from previously. The only reason you're available is if there's still a magnet inside of you that says, kick me, right here. And so if you focus on that input and continuously put in that input, there's no way not to change.
Well, I'm a testament to that. In 94, when I started in truth, I mean, like you said, the like begets like. And as you change and shift and morph, and the people you hung out with, it's like, well, I haven't heard from so and so. And Reverend Ann said, if they leave you, leave them alone. You know how they leave and then you want to call them and it's like, where you been and whatever. No, if they leave you, leave them alone, because you are shifting and changing and you are
Yes.
not in that mind frame, and you do want to be around people of like mind. So this is a great and powerful lesson for me tonight to realize really how far I've come.
Yeah. And to say thank you. Thank you. Oh, to that point. So this is something I'll share this with you guys. I don't know if I should, well, yeah, whatever. Who cares? I can be transparent. So in June, literally at the start of the third quarter, I started a fast. And up to that point, I was in a lot of pain. In fact, I'm teaching this class standing up today. I would not have been able to be standing up if I had not taken that fast. And in that fast, I got rid of sugar, I got rid of carbs, I got rid of salt. And about 85% of the pain that I was in went away. And so I was like, well, wait a minute. What the heck am I doing to myself? And so I was like, well, what if I just kept going and just said no to sugar altogether? And the other 15% over the last 90 days is basically cleared up. And so when you talk about, Constance, looking back from where you came, that just the energy, the ability to move, you are what you eat, literally and figuratively. And I thought, I had attributed some of the back problems that I had to age, or maybe it was because I used to carry Jordan, way past the point when I probably should have been carrying that child. He should have been walking on his own 2 feet, but he was so light, so I picked him up. I thought that I had tweaked my back from carrying him, and so then that was a problem, and so I was just constantly in pain. And so today, to be pain free is and the only difference is no sugar, no carbs. And so I say all that to say that we become what we take in. We never have an output problem. And so if you're around people who they're not, you don't want the destiny that they're headed for. You can look at where they're going by what they're doing every day and know they're not going where I want to go. But maybe you don't know how to get from around them, right? That might be your challenge. It might be a relative. Maybe you have some people pleasing in you. Maybe you don't feel strong enough to be on your own. Maybe you don't want to be lonely. That will keep somebody in a friendship or a relationship longer than anything. It's like, well, at least I'm not alone. And so I'm putting up with what I don't want. And so but I really don't want this. Start taking in different input. Start putting in different pieces of information and start small. Start with just reading something positive every day if you don't already do that. If you already do that, read 2 positive things. It's like, just start taking in new information. And as you do that, that is going to shift the game for you tremendously. And in very little time, very, very little time. Jordan? Okay. Yeah. Y'all about to see Iron Man get a spanking.
Reverend Sherri, I
Yes,
kind
ma'am.
of, I've learned to deal with it like that, but also in a different way with some people. It used to be that I was always trying to bring people into metaphysics. I would
Mhm.
say, you got to watch what you say. And, and I found myself sometimes just arguing and arguing. So, now that I use my cell phone, I usually have it on speakerphone so I don't have it up to my ear. And what I've learned to do is I cut the speakerphone off when they're talking. So I can't hear them. And so I just let them go on and talk about all the negative things. And every now and then I click in and I say, oh, okay, click back off. And I have found that that has taken a lot of stress with a couple of people that, I just can't get rid of because of the relationship. But
Mhm.
now I don't have to hear it in my ear, just that constant, no matter what. If you say, well, the sun is going to come out, but it's not shining now. They said it's I mean, no matter what, it's just always so negative. And then they
Yeah.
want to say, I don't understand why my life is not improving. I'm like, what? Come on. But, after a while, I just keep praying and say, I'm sure that, you will hear what you need to hear when you need to hear it. Because
Yeah.
you can't hear it evidently from me. But
Right.
I don't need to hear the negativity that you have.
Yes. 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 That's it. I love it. That's wonderful.
I have a question though.
Yes.
It's happened to me that one day I've met somebody and they're like that's completely negative, and I've had to like move away from them and be like completely avoid them. And then the next day, like they're a different person, and I'm like, what happened to you? So like, what do you do? Like, you become their friend again,
Yeah.
or
Remember,
were they like
out,
were they
out,
just this? Why
yeah,
was
output always proves input. So that means that they're taking in a mixed consciousness. So sometimes they're feeding on good stuff. That's why they can show up good. And sometimes they feeding on negative stuff and they show up negative. The best way to see this is around kids. So when Jordan was 5, which by the way, he wanted y'all to see his Iron Man costume. So just okay, he's gonna be Iron Man this year for Halloween. When he was 4, he got into Power Rangers, and that was his thing. He was, it's all he did. And I'm not gonna say my age, but I'm the age that I am, and I'm like, Power Rangers. Oh yeah, it's nothing, right? It's no bad language. The all of the not jokes, but yeah, well, it's jokes, but it's all it's campy. Like that's the type of humor that it is. And so they're fighting, and it's like really bad fight choreography and all of that. So he had this steady diet of Power Rangers. And I was getting calls every day from the school because he was going and trying to battle the kids in the school because he was the red Power Ranger and they were the bad guys. And the thing is that as adults, we have filters. So we know not to exactly go and let out on somebody what we took in. As I literally had to stop him from watching Power Rangers for about a couple of years. And then I learned my lesson because this is how it ended up being a couple of years, because I stopped it for like 2 months, and then it went away. And then maybe like 6 months later, I thought, well, maybe he's a little bit older, he can watch it again. And I tell you, inside of one day, they were calling me from the school again. Yeah, Jordan just attacked the other kids. And I was like, so sorry. Okay, I know what happened. Power Rangers. So as adults, we know to like put that filter up, but we have those places where we do feel like it's safe, because if it's going in, it is coming out, but it's probably coming out in in our relationships where we feel like we take the person for granted. You know, sometimes we're nicer to people in public than we are to those in our own home. And so it's output always proves input, always. Anything else before we move to the next thing? Okay, so the last thing I want to give you is from Truth Unity. So Truth Unity is, you guys know what Truth Unity is. So I usually go there. That's usually my last stop, just to make sure I didn't miss any words. And so I'll build this list, and then we will use it in 2 weeks when we start to develop the definitions. And maybe what we'll do is take two Thursdays to develop those definitions, just to give ourselves time. Bible. Words. All right, so we're reading verse 10 through 19. So years, so we didn't talk about years. So years that we would look up, because that's a word that's hyperlinked. Essentially, every word that's hyperlinked is one that we would look up. So years, we had already identified life, way, wisdom, hold, we didn't talk about. Although that should have been there, because that word appears a couple of times. And remember, these words are we're looking at 2 different versions. So the version I gave you guys is from the Anchor Bible Commentary, and this is the ASV. So you want to look for the word you want to look up the word that's here. Yeah, that's why we got to do that. Okay. Life, we already said that one. Walk, way, evil men, sleep. Sleep appears at fall. Eat, bread, wine, light, day, way again, and darkness. So essentially, all of these words become the word, our list of definitions that we're going to develop definitions for. And so we'll take 2 weeks to work on that, because that's going to take some time to make sure we get that together. And so that's where we are. So that's what we'll focus on when we come back. So like I said, we will not meet on September 30th, but we will meet again on the 7th. So the 7th and the 14th, we will focus on step 3, which is to develop the definitions. In the meantime, what I'll do is I'll build the list of words that we're looking up that we identified tonight, and I'll have my virtual assistant send that out. And then when we come back on the 7th, we'll start digging through those definitions. But if you want to get started ahead of time, you'd already have the list that we're going to be working from. So, any questions? Anything?
Quick question. So number 1 was proper names and cities, and I know I need to get that book though. So proper names and cities, and then I missed what number 2 was, but then I had number 3 was words and phrases that repeat. 4 was action words or thoughts of movement, and then with Truth Unity. But what was it after proper names?
Numbers.
Oh, it was numbers. Oh, I thought you said something else.
Numbers.
Okay, cool. Numbers. Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Just trying to see if there was something else I want to give you. Okay, wonderful. Constance, did you want to say anything?
No, I just thought the information presented tonight was right on point for me. And it was just a way to see how far really I've come.
Mm-hmm.
And that really what you take in is who you really become. And,
Yeah.
Wonderful lesson. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, listen, I was able to do this lesson. I would not have been able to do this Like my back would have been hurting and I would have been adjusting this camera and sitting down. And I'm an advocate for cut the sugar out. Cut the sugar out. Just let it
Well, I
go.
guess I got another 20 years to try that.
It's a game changer.
Bless you, bless you, bless you.
So do you use monk fruit or something sweetener? What do you use for like? So nothing is
So I
sweet?
don't do a ton of desserts. So if
Okay.
I wanted a dessert, like one of my friends had a birthday party, I ate a piece of cake. So I'm not doing that, but I'm not restricting like that. Like, oh, I'm over here in the corner like the Amish. No, I'm no shade on the Amish. I don't know that they don't eat cake. That's just okay. But I am like cutting out any refined carbohydrates, processed foods. If it's got a barcode, I'm not buying it. So
Okay. I'm just curious because I have to figure out something to maintain consistent energy and to avoid the crashes that I have. And I know it has something to do with
Yeah.
sugar, but right now I just do like monk fruit sweetener. I don't do white sugar at all, no
Yeah.
refined sugar, but the carbs, that's a whole nother thing.
Well, bread, pasta,
Yeah,
muffins,
Okay,
waffles, pancakes,
you're so sure.
rice.
Wow.
Yeah. It's but it will shift your life. Oh, I got an echo. Is it
Oh,
you?
maybe
No, I think it was Malayla.
it was.
Oh, okay. So thank you. Next week is a week of spiritual renewal, and I will see you on the 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank
week.
you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.